It started like any other high society split. Emily and Nathan were known as the power couple of Westport. Lavish parties, designer labels, and Instagram-perfect vacations defined their public image. But behind closed doors, the foundation of their marriage was already crumbling. The real shock, however, wasn't the divorce itself, it was what came after. Before we dive deep into this mysterious case, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we bring you gripping legal dramas, real-life courtroom twists, and stories that will leave you speechless every single day. Don't miss out. Now back to the story. Emily had always managed the home, while Nathan ran a successful tech company. On paper, they had it all. But when Emily filed for divorce, her lawyers hit a brick wall. The family's wealth, once estimated at over $30 million, seemed to have vanished overnight. Where had the money gone? Emily's legal team began investigating. Bank records that once showed millions in joint assets now displayed suspicious withdrawals and account closures. Nathan claimed business downturns and bad investments, but his lifestyle hadn't changed. He was still flying private, wearing new luxury watches and staying in five-star resorts. The more they dug, the stranger it got. A forensic accountant was brought in, and what she uncovered set the courtroom on fire. Hidden shell companies in offshore jurisdictions, large transfers to unknown entities, and sudden liquidation of assets pointed to deliberate concealment. Emily had no idea. She had signed the prenup years ago, trusting Nathan implicitly. But now, that prenup, along with her trust, was being put to the test. As the court proceedings began, the judge grew visibly concerned about the complexity of the case. What started as a typical high-net-worth divorce had morphed into a financial crime investigation. Emily sat quietly through it all, betrayed and stunned. Her team built a timeline of missing funds, questionable transactions, and fake investments. Each piece was like a puzzle, slowly revealing the truth. Nathan, on the other hand, remained confident, perhaps too confident. He denied everything, even as documents clearly showed otherwise. He claimed hackers, incompetent staff, and bad luck. But the judge wasn't buying it. The courtroom buzzed with tension. Spectators followed every new detail as if watching a true crime thriller unfold. Journalists camped outside the courthouse. Social media erupted with theories. Was Nathan guilty of fraud, or was Emily using the divorce to destroy his reputation? By the end of the first week, the judge ordered a full audit of all accounts going back 10 years. The next chapter of the story would reveal secrets no one expected. The tension inside the courtroom was thick enough to cut with a knife. After the dramatic end to the previous hearing, all eyes were now on Caroline as she stepped into the witness stand. The defense team had been relentless, trying to poke holes in her story, but Caroline's calm composure had become a symbol of her determination. She began describing the early signs, how James's behavior started shifting. Once open and affectionate, he grew secretive and cold. She talked about the cancelled credit cards, the missing statements, and how she had once found a bank receipt from an account she didn't recognize. That was when her suspicions turned into a personal investigation. Using an old laptop James had discarded, Caroline found fragments of emails, some deleted, some half-written. They mentioned transfers to offshore accounts, shell companies, and investment ventures that had never been disclosed in their financial reports. But she wasn't a financial expert, so she reached out, discreetly, to an independent forensic accountant. That's when the real shock began. The accountant uncovered a network of over 15 undisclosed accounts across 5 countries, including Switzerland and the Cayman Islands. Over $9.3 million had been systematically moved, hidden, and reinvested, without Caroline's knowledge. The funds were tied to companies James had never declared during their financial disclosures. Worse, he had forged her signature on multiple authorization documents. The courtroom gasped when the accountant testified. Charts, graphs, and document trails appeared on the screen. James, visibly sweating, avoided eye contact. It was no longer a divorce, it was fraud. Caroline's lawyer, Olivia Grant, took advantage of the momentum. In a powerful closing remark for the day, she said, "This isn't just a divorce proceeding. This is a case about betrayal, of trust, of transparency, and of the law. No spouse should ever be left in the dark, especially not when millions are at stake." Reporters waited outside the courtroom, eager to break headlines about the missing millions. Social media exploded with clips and commentary. Everyone had an opinion. Was James a criminal mastermind, or a desperate husband protecting his assets? As the trial entered its next phase, new witnesses were scheduled to testify. Former business partners, a bank executive, even an ex-assistant who claimed she helped shred financial records. Each one would help unravel the mystery of how James had orchestrated a financial web right under everyone's noses. The real question now wasn't just whether Caroline would win the divorce. It was whether James would walk away free or straight into another courtroom, this time facing criminal charges. And the deeper they dug, the more shocking the truth became. Rachel didn't waste any time. The moment she stepped out of the courtroom after the explosive testimony about the offshore accounts, she assembled her investigative team. They worked day and night, poring over financial records, tracing transactions, and following leads across borders. What they uncovered was nothing short of astounding. Not only had Anthony stashed millions offshore, but he had also funneled funds through fake shell companies, charities, and even a luxury car dealership registered under a friend's name. It was a vast, deliberately tangled web designed to obscure the truth and keep Olivia in the dark. When Rachel presented her findings to the court, the reaction was seismic. The judge ordered an immediate forensic audit of Anthony's entire financial history over the last 10 years. Anthony's expression was unreadable, but the color drained from his face. Olivia, on the other hand, felt both vindicated and overwhelmed. This was bigger than she'd ever imagined. But the revelations didn't stop at the finances. The investigation unearthed another, more personal betrayal. One of the shell companies used to hide money had been co-owned by a woman Anthony had hired, someone Olivia had once considered a close friend. The deception cut deeper than any legal blow could. The courtroom transformed from a simple divorce proceeding into what the media was now calling the divorce of the decade. Reporters swarmed the courthouse steps every morning. Talk shows speculated endlessly. Hashtags trended online. And while the public was captivated, Olivia remained focused. This wasn't just about money. It was about reclaiming her voice, her dignity, and the decade she had unknowingly spent living a lie. Meanwhile, Rachel, ever composed, remained one step ahead. She filed a motion to freeze Anthony's assets to prevent further tampering. The court agreed. Anthony's bank accounts, business assets, and properties were now under strict court oversight. He could no longer hide behind his empire. As the trial moved forward, Anthony's defense began to crumble. His own accountants began cooperating with investigators, likely in exchange for immunity. One by one, his secrets spilled into the open, some of them so brazen that even the judge couldn't hide his astonishment. The media frenzy intensified. Olivia, who had once been camera-shy, was now seen as a symbol of courage and resilience. She began receiving letters of support from women across the country, some going through similar situations, others simply inspired by her strength. But Olivia never let the attention distract her. Her focus remained on the truth and on making sure justice was served, not just for her, but for everyone who had ever been deceived, silenced, or manipulated. And as the trial entered its final days, one last twist was still waiting in the shadows. The courtroom was quieter than usual that morning. Cameras had been banned due to the sensitive financial revelations expected during closing arguments. But the media frenzy hadn't calmed. Outside, reporters were still scrambling to get statements from anyone remotely connected to the case. Inside, Olivia sat flanked by her legal team, dressed in a navy blue suit, calm but focused. Across the aisle, Martin appeared more fragile than ever. His once confident demeanor had been worn down by months of revelations, each more damaging than the last. The judge entered, and everyone rose. The moment had arrived. Olivia's lawyer stood first, delivering a powerful summary of the evidence. The concealed overseas accounts, the false real estate declarations, the crypto wallets hidden under shell companies. It painted a picture not only of deception, but of premeditated financial manipulation. Then came Martin's attorney, attempting to reframe the narrative as a misunderstanding, a complex web of business decisions that had been misconstrued. But by now, the weight of the evidence was too heavy to counter. When the judge began reading the verdict, the tension in the courtroom was electric. The court finds that a deliberate effort was made to hide substantial assets from the marital estate. Such conduct is not only unethical, it undermines the very foundation of matrimonial law. Therefore, the court rules in favor of the petitioner, Olivia Chambers. Olivia's shoulders dropped, her breath releasing as though she'd been holding it for months. The judgment awarded Olivia half of the disclosed assets and 70% of the uncovered hidden wealth. But more than the money, it was a public acknowledgement that she had been wronged and that she had fought back with integrity. As the news broke across headlines, the missing millions divorce mystery solved. It wasn't just the financial angle that caught the world's attention. It was the human element, a story of betrayal, resilience, and justice. But Olivia didn't stop at the courtroom victory. Within weeks, she launched a public awareness campaign for financial transparency in marriages. Her platform, Know Before You Sign, offered free legal and financial workshops for engaged couples. It became a viral movement, encouraging people, especially women, to ask questions, get prenups reviewed, and never sign in the dark. She also published a memoir, Hidden Balance, which became a bestseller. But Olivia always insisted it wasn't about revenge or even justice. "It's about light," she said in one interview. "Bringing light into the spaces people don't want you to look." Martin, meanwhile, vanished from the public eye. His business empire suffered. Investors pulled out. The trust was broken. And perhaps more damaging than the court's judgment was the judgment of the public, who had watched his fall from grace with grim fascination. In the final scene of this real-life thriller, Olivia stood at a podium, speaking at a global conference on women and finance. She smiled and said, "Sometimes the truth takes time, but it always finds its way to the surface." Her words echoed not just in that auditorium, but across millions of viewers who had followed her story. She had become more than a woman wronged. She had become a voice of change. And if you've been moved by this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for powerful, real-life courtroom stories that reveal the strength behind every legal battle. We post daily stories that don't just entertain, they inspire.